There's a version of you that shows up when everything is fine. Easy to be around, generous, clear-headed, funny even. And there's another version, one that shows up in about the time it takes someone to change their tone of voice. One that controls or chases or disappears or explodes or goes quiet or says yes when the whole rest of you is screaming no. Here's what I want you to sit with before we go any further. Both of those people are you. Neither one is fake. And the gap between them isn't a character defect. It's a switch. And today we're going to find out exactly what flips it. Welcome to The Regulated Life, where relational nervous system science meets real life healing. If your body is tired of protecting you from the people you love most, you're in the right place. I'm Dr. Erica Carter-Folk, and this is Method Monday, the deep dive. Today we're opening the week of the regulation era, and this week's big question is one that I want you to actually sit with, not just hear and move past. Who do you become when your nervous system doesn't feel safe? Not who do you become when you're angry, not who do you become when you're stressed. Specifically, who shows up when your body decides, often before you've had a single conscious thought about it, that this moment is not safe? Because here's the thing almost nobody tells you. You don't actually have one personality that occasionally has a bad day. You have a baseline self, and you have a protective self. And the protective self has a name, a shape, a specific set of behaviors, and a job it's been doing since long before you could talk. We call it your Sentry. Today I'm going to walk you through exactly how the Sentry system works, introduce you to all 6 of the Sentry Archetypes, explain why understanding this intellectually won't be enough to change it, and give you the first real entry point to actually working with your body instead of constantly getting hijacked by it. This episode is the foundation for the next 5 weeks, where we're going to go deep on each archetype individually. So if you only listen to one Method Monday this month, make it this one. Let's get into it. Let's start with a term that everything else this episode builds on, neuroception. This word comes from Dr. Stephen Porges, the researcher behind polyvagal theory, and it describes something your nervous system is doing right now as you listen to this, whether you're aware of it or not. Neuroception is your body's continuous subconscious scanning process, constantly evaluating the environment, other people's faces, tone of voice, posture, even the rhythm of silence for signals of safety or danger. And critically, this scanning happens below the level of conscious thought. It doesn't ask your permission. It doesn't wait for your logical brain to weigh in. By the time your thinking mind catches up to, wait, was that actually a big deal? Your body has already run its assessment, and if it detected threat, already started responding. Here's the sequence, and I want you to really picture this, because once you can see it, you can start working on it. Something happens, a tone shifts, someone goes quiet, feedback lands wrong, and a text goes unanswered for longer than expected. That signal hits your amygdala, sometimes called your brain smoke detector, before it ever reaches your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain responsible for reasoning, perspective taking, and impulse control. This is not a metaphor. This is documented neuroanatomy. Dr. Joseph Ladeau's research on the amygdala mapped exactly this. A fast, low-road pathway that can trigger a full-body stress response in a fraction of a second, running in parallel to and faster than the slower high-road pathway that involves conscious reasoning. So what actually happens in your body during this? Your amygdala signals a threat. Your hypothalamus activates your sympathetic nervous system. Cortisol and adrenaline release. Your heart rate and breathing shift. Blood moves away from your digestive system and toward your major muscle groups. And this is the part that explains so much of what my clients bring to sessions. Blood flow and glucose metabolism in your prefrontal cortex measurably decrease. Your access to nuanced language, patience, and perspective taking literally drops in real time, exactly when a hard conversation needs it the most. This is why you can be someone who gives brilliant, compassionate advice to your friends about their relationships and then find yourself saying something sharp and reactive to your own partner 3 minutes later and not fully understand how you got there. It's not hypocrisy, it's neuroanatomy. Two different systems activating under two very different conditions. Now, here's where it gets specific to relationships, and this is where Dr. John Bowlby's attachment research becomes relevant. Bowlby's foundational insight was that human beings are wired from infancy to seek proximity and safety through relationships. Our earliest nervous system didn't just learn that danger exists. They learn what specific things in your specific environment signal danger. A raised voice, a slammed door, a parent's face going cold, a sibling's silence right before things got bad. Your body built a highly individualized threat detection library based entirely on your specific childhood environment, and it has been running that same library largely unchanged ever since, often decades past its relevance. This is the piece that changes everything once you really understand it. Your Sentry isn't malfunctioning. It's succeeding perfectly at a job it was assigned a very long time ago, using data that may be 30 or 40 years out of date. So let's talk about what this actually looks like when it activates, because your Sentry doesn't just make you reactive in some generic sense. It has a shape, a specific recognizable pattern. We call these Sentry Archetypes, and there are 6 of them. I want to walk you through all 6 today, slowly, because people find themselves somewhere in at least 2 or 3 of these. A dominant pattern and a secondary one that shows up when the first gets overwhelmed. The armored. This is the control response. When threat registers, the armored stiffens, jaw tightens, shoulders square, breath goes high and shallow in the chest. The strategy is management. Fix it, direct it, take charge of a situation that suddenly feels unpredictable. The internal narrative usually sounds something like, if I don't control this, everything falls apart. From the outside, this can look like composure, even leadership. From the inside, it's often a full sympathetic activation being channeled into control instead of collapse. The storm. This is intensity of strategy. Volume rises before it's consciously chosen. The storm isn't cruelty. It's urgency with nowhere else to go. A nervous system trying to force resolution before the moment escalates further in the storm's own perception. The narrative underneath is often something like, if I don't make this land right now, I'll lose the chance to be heard at all. The seeker. This is pursuit. Silence or distance registers as danger, so the body moves toward closure. A second text before the first is answered. A need for reassurance that can feel bottomless to a partner on the other end. This isn't neediness in the way our culture tends to shame it. It's a nervous system that learned somewhere along the way that an open loop is unsafe, and it will not rest until the loop closes. The hollow. This is collapse. When the system floods past its coping capacity, it shuts the door. Heart rate can actually drop. Vision can lose focus. A person can be fully present in a room and simultaneously gone. This is dorsal vagal shutdown, the most extreme end of the polyvagal ladder. The body's last resort response when fight or flight both feel unavailable. The bunker. This is retreat, but quieter than the hollow. The bunker goes still, goes internal, sometimes physically leaves the room, and sometimes just goes silent inside a room they're still sitting in. Too much input too fast, and the safest available move is containment. Protecting the self by minimizing exposure even at the cost of connection. The appeaser. This is fawning. The boundary collapses before the mouth even fully opens. Sure, no problem. While the body is bracing, throat tightening, stomach dropping. This pattern is often the hardest to recognize as a survival response because our culture rewards it and calls it easygoing. But underneath it is frequently a very old, very accurate calculation Keeping the peace once kept me safe. Here's what I want you to notice. None of these 6 are villains in the story. Every single one of them is a nervous system doing exactly, precisely what it was built to do: protect you, using the best available strategy it had access to when it was formed. And here's something important for those of you listening who are single right now, or between relationships, or navigating this primarily through family or work. This isn't only a romantic partner phenomenon. Your Sentry doesn't check your relationship status before it activates. It shows up with your business partner, your sibling, your adult child, your closest friend, wherever there's relational stakes. Wherever being seen, being close, being vulnerable is on the table, your Sentry is available to run the same protocol. And most people don't just have one. Most people have a dominant Sentry, the one that shows up first, most often, and a secondary one that kicks in when the first one gets overwhelmed or stops working. An armored who, when control fails completely, drops into a hollow. A seeker who, after enough unanswered pursuit, collapses into a bunker. Understanding your specific combination is actually one of the more useful things you can learn about yourself, which is exactly what the quiz at the end of this episode is built to identify. So here's the question that matters most. If this is happening below conscious thought, faster than you can reason your way out of, what actually changes it? I need to be honest with you about something, because I think you deserve honesty more than you deserve comfort here. Understanding your Sentry archetype will not by itself stop it from activating. I wish I could tell you that insight was enough. It isn't. And if you spent years understanding your patterns intellectually and still watching yourself repeat them in real time, I want you to hear this clearly. That is not a failure of your effort or your intelligence. That is the nature of the system. Insight lives in your prefrontal cortex. Your Sentry lives in your body, in your breath pattern, your muscle bracing, your vagal tone. And under threat, exactly the system that holds your insight is the one that goes the quietest. This is why regulation, not insight, is the actual lever. Regulation means working directly with your physiology, your breath, your muscle tension, your sensory input, your nervous system's actual state, rather than trying to think your way into a calm you can't access from where you currently are. The first and most foundational regulation skill isn't a technique at all. It's a 3-second gap. Almost every Sentry activation isn't actually instant, even though it feels instant. There's a small window, often 1 to 3 seconds, between the trigger and the full activation, where your body is bracing before it's fully committed to the pattern. Chest tightening before the armor locks in. A held breath before the bunker goes quiet. A stomach drop before the appeaser's mouth says, "Sure, no problem." That window is small, but it's real, and it's the single most valuable piece of real estate in your entire nervous system, because it's the only moment where intervention is genuinely possible before the pattern takes over completely. This week's 4 raw regulation episodes are each built to work inside that window. 1 tool per day, each targeting a different piece of the protective response, so that by Friday you have a working toolkit for meeting your body in that 3-second gap instead of getting swept past it every time. I'll name them now because I want you to have this map before you go into the week. Tuesday, we're working with the bracing and control response, useful if armored or storm shows up for you. Wednesday, we're working with boundary collapse. This one's essential if appeaser is your pattern. Thursday, we're working with the pursuit response, built for seeker energy when distance or silence sends your body into chase mode. And Friday, we're working with shutdown and numbness for hollow and bunker patterns when your system's answer to too much is to disappear. You don't have to already know your archetype to benefit from this week. Try out 4. Your body will tell you which one it recognizes. Next week, we start individual deep dives, beginning with the armored Sentry and the specific childhood conditions that tend to build it. If you ever wondered why you became the one who has to be in control, that's the episode for you. Before we close, I want to leave you with this. The goal here was never to eliminate your Sentry. Your Sentry kept you alive. It deserves respect, not exile. The goal is to give it an update, to help it learn. The way you're learning right now that the world is protecting you from isn't the same world it was built in. Before you try to fix the pattern, find out what survival pattern your body is running. Take the Relational Nervous System quiz at mind-fusion.com/quiz. And if this episode helped your body exhale even 1 inch, share it with someone who's still calling their survival pattern a personality flaw. I'll see you tomorrow for Raw Regulation. Welcome to the regulation era.